I am Samrit Pramanik, your host today. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's Kolkata R User Group Meetup session number 5. I am truly excited to see such a great turnout. Our community is growing stronger every day, and it's always inspiring to connect with fellow data scientists, data enthusiasts, statisticians, and most importantly, our users. So today's session is particularly special as we explore Quarto, a powerful tool revolutionizing how we create and share data-driven content. Quarto enables seamless integration of code, analysis, and narratives, making it to a go-to choice for reproducible research, dynamic report, and high-quality documentation. I am also thrilled to introduce our guest speaker today, Zhang, who brings a wealth of experience to this session. She is a statistician and art developer at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Oslo, and has been doing incredible work as a co-lead of the CAMIS project, which aims to drive innovations in healthcare through data analysis and advanced statistical methods. As some of you may know, I recently had the privilege of joining this CAMIS project, so I can personally vouch for how exciting and impactful the work it is. And today she will guide us through the ins and outs of Quarto, sharing practical insights and demonstrating how we can leverage this tool in our own projects. So before get started, I encourage you all to engage actively, ask questions, share your thoughts, and make the most of this opportunity to learn from one of the best in this field. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Xi Zhang, and over to you, Xi. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the great introduction, and I hope everyone can hear me. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, and maybe good morning for those who in the US. My name is Chi, and today I'm going to talk about my personal experiences with Quarto and my statistics journey in general. I have been participating in our users meetup since I think 2019, first in Oslo and then participate some in Zurich in Switzerland. And now I'm very glad to do my first virtual meetup online. All right, so I have prepared some slides, and when I start showing my slides, it's impossible for me to read any chats. So if you have questions, you can just write in the chat, and later we can answer that after the talk. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here, and I can answer any questions you have. So yeah, don't worry about anything. Just tell me. All right. So I hope everyone can see my screen. If you don't, just shout because I can't see anymore. Today's talk is about
It is visible.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Today's talk is about use Quarto and make friends. It's a bit of a catchy title, but I hope you will understand what I mean by the end of it. And I'm from Oslo Center for Biostatistics and Epidemiology. It's basically the biostatistics department at the University of Oslo. And I have worked quite a lot with Oslo University Hospital on some of the projects. So I'm also affiliated there. All right, so a bit more about me. I am a statistician and I mostly work on real world data, and that includes electronic health records from the hospital and also some large public health registries. And gradually I realized I'm working less and less on statistical methodology, but more on the R part, because when you work on real world data, actually a very large part of it is data cleaning and the processing. And I really like that part instead of doing predictions. After my PhD, I became a lecturer. It's a 50% temporary position. It's not really a tenure track, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And it's teaching biostatistics at the Faculty of Medicine at University of Oslo. And the students are usually clinicians or psychologists and nutritionists, so a very applied field. So for that course, I developed a course website using our Quarto and WebR, and that's something new we added this year. Apart from this, I have some few side projects, and Kamis is one of the projects I'm working on right now, along with Harshel from Novo Nordisk, Ling from Parexel, and also Christina from GSK. And then I have our package GGEHR, that's a ggplot extension for visualizing EHR data. So these are some of the things I do that are related with public health and real world data. So it's more like work related. And Quarto itself is more like a side thing, but I realize it's really quite interesting for many purposes, like both work and life and career development. So I'm quite excited to share it with you. Below are a few of my engagements. If you know what the carpentry is, it's basically teaching software skills to researchers at university. And we teach basic things like introduction to Python or introduction to R and ggplot, things like that. And we are all volunteers. We don't take any money from there. And if you want to find the counterparts in your university or materials online, they're all free. So it's pretty nice to learn the basics of like software for research. Needless to say, Our Ladies, I started from there, and Fuse, it's an open source community for the healthcare industry. Maybe you'll find something relevant for you there as well. Right, so today this talk is about Quarto, use Quarto, make friends. So I will talk about my personal website journey. I started using Blockdown in 2019, and then I changed to Quarto in 2022. And I'm going to explain how I expanded the Quarto use case organically. I didn't really plan the whole journey, it just happened, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot. And I'll talk about some thoughts on Quarto's role on networking and career development, in particular on LinkedIn, social media, and then we can catch up some latest trend on Quarto and show some resources if you have time. And then, of course, a discussion and see how you use Quarto yourself. So first part is my personal website journey. It all started in 2019. I was doing my PhD in Oslo, and it's on the electronic health records, but we had no data. And if you do a PhD in biostatistics, you kind of need the data. So this was like my mental status. This is the Scream by Edvard Munch, a famous Norwegian artist. And that was literally my mental state. Like nothing can be done with my PhD and kind of desperate. So on another note, Twitter was still a thing back then. And I was just on Twitter a lot. Well, many academics do actually. So it was a mix of reasons to kickstart the journey of developing a website for myself. So Twitter was, there are a lot of information flying around on Twitter about the R stats, and those are quite useful. And then I started browsing the data science blogs because I'm doing like data science in health. So it's always useful to find resources in blogs to catch up the latest technology instead of reading the book, right? Then there is a growing R community at that time. People are posting their personal tutorials and some notes on the latest technology. And also, they usually have a personal website. And notably, Yihui Xie, it's a Chinese developer who developed the R Markdown suite. And he was really a key role in pushing me towards this journey of using a personal website. Then there was Meetups. Our users Meetup and our latest Meetup back then, they were pretty active in Oslo. So I was going there a lot, and I was quite eager to do something myself, to present something myself, because I actually had quite a bit of free time because I have no data and there's no progress in my PhD. So this was a very common media back then, medium. I think it's still quite relevant right now, but yeah, I'm using it less and less. Still, you can find some useful information there. But I think the most problematic thing is that many of the great content are behind the paywall. So, of course, I would go for the books. and many of the books were built by bookdown. Instead of blockdown, there is a bookdown. So the books published with that is for free. So of course, I was drawn to do this with open source instead of behind a paywall on the Medium. But I still had an account on Medium nonetheless. So I used the blockdown to build my website, and the blockdown, it was essentially Hugo plus R Markdown. So with a static website generator plus the markup language with a permitted text. So it was actually pretty nice to do that, all for free. And I used the Netflix, no, not Netflix, but Netlify, I think that's how it's called, to host my site for free. Back then, the template was this famous academic template because R, it's primarily used by statisticians and statistics students, data scientists. So, well, if you call it academic, then it has like a quite a good sound to it. It looked something like this. So academic, it's using the Nelson Bighetti biography. If you know, it's actually a reference to Silicon Valley, the TV show. And there is a biography, interest, education, and some icons. And then you have the home, publications, posts, projects, tutorial, contact on the navigation bar. So this looked pretty neat. And this is a relatively complex template as well, because you see that you need to have quite a lot of content, and it really holds everything, like publication and so on. But it had like 8 different color templates to the right. So these are like pre-decided by the academic template already. So you don't really have to configure any CSS yourself. And I did that. I used the academic template, and I did a talk at the local user Meetup. It was my very first R Meetup. It was in 2019, April. I had fun doing it. And it was, of course, a lot of screenshots flying around, but nonetheless, it was quite interesting. So one of the more notable, memorable slide I did was when you have a lot of documents inside this the folder for your web page built with Blockdown. You see that you have really a lot of content. The configuration, you have a folder and the TOML, and then you have the content that has author, home, blah, blah, then the public, resources, static, themes, etc. So it was a quite a complicated not package, but template to use. And while I was presenting the talk, actually someone in the audience also said, yeah, this is actually a nightmare to get started. But it's actually the go-to suggested by the Blockdown package that you use the academic to start with. So it was quite complicated. And my strategy back there was to delete the folders. I compile the site. And if it doesn't work, then I know I delete something important. Otherwise, I didn't do anything wrong. I just keep deleting and keep them minimal. So that was a strategy back then. It worked, but I wouldn't say it's really a neat solution, right? And at that time, there was a alternative compared to the Blockdown, and that's called the Distill. And I think that was RStudio's, back then it's still called RStudio. It was their strategy to move something more into a professional looking website. And this, at that time, they were calling it to publish like a scientific and technical communication, right? So this already starting to look a bit more and more like how the Quarto books, a Quarto website looks like right now. So I tried to use Distill for a moment, and I didn't love it too much. It was quite neat, but also had a lot of restrictions. So I didn't really stick to it too much. And then a lot of things happened right after 2019. There was a 3 years gap because I finally had some data and I have to finish my PhD. And then I was busy working on a public health project because, well, there was COVID and I know R and I could help in some of the public health surveillance projects. So I got busy. and I never had time to focus on my website anymore. So I just didn't do anything for a few years. After that, it came to 2022, and a few things happened. So the things that are relevant to me personally, COVID pandemic had calmed down. It didn't really finish until next year, but it has really calmed down quite a bit. And as I was working in public health, I was working on infectious disease surveillance in particular, and that means like the busiest of the busiest. When COVID has calmed down, that means more time for me and more time for some side projects that I have. And the good thing for me is that I finished my PhD, but I had a severe burnout from the PhD. Again, this was how my mental states look like. It's exactly the same as 3 years ago when I had no data, but yeah, it's really getting a bit crazy for me. So I thought that I really need a distraction that's really not about statistic related. So I started to work on the website again. And I finished my PhD. I thought, okay, it's finally time that I decide what I do next, because first, like it is really important to know what you want to do next. And a few other things is Twitter became X. That's a quite a big change, and a lot of people actually stopped using Twitter, including me. I just dropped it out from Twitter, and I don't know what's happening there anymore. Then Posit has rebranded. It was called R Studio, and now it's called Posit. And then Quarto was released in July 2022. So this is a very big change in 2022 that's relevant for the talk today. So I thought, wow, since we have Quarto now and people online, they are starting to make their website in Quarto and everyone says it's so good. I might as well try it out and see what happens. So after a PhD, I immediately forgot about scientific research and I started digging into my old website, and the URL still worked actually. And I just started looking at the Quarto website, their official guidelines for how to do it. And the first impression I had was it was light like a feather, because you really don't have that many files flying around anymore. It's really light. So let me explain what I mean by that. So basically, you just need two files to make a website work. You need the Quarto YAML file that configures how your website is going to look like, and then you need the index QMD. So that's a Quarto file that you write how your homepage is going to look like. Then everything else like README, the CSS, the git ignore, you don't necessarily need them to make a website look how you want it to look. So that was like a really big surprise to me, and for the good. And the many folders are gone, and that's great. You don't have like a static folder where you have a lot of stuff, and the resources folder, which I really had no idea what it was back in the time of lockdown. And the Quarto YAML file, it was much easier to read. You specify your project, the website, how the navigation bar should look like, and then you just insert what the format and the coloring, templates, etc. you want to look like. So it was really, really neat. And the best thing is when you click render site, it really didn't generate a lot of strange rendered files. Everything was put under the docs backslash, and everything is in there. And your website is essentially deployed from that folder. Everything else, you can modify them and you click on render. It just looks very clean. So that's why I say it really felt like it's light like a feather. So I was actually really happy about it. And I just wrote a blog about it. And this here, it's the official Quarto website, and they have a very good official documentation. Back in the days of lockdown, it was not really well documented, I would say. And it was a bit on the messy side, even though a lot of people are working on it. The deployment of the Quarto website is pretty easy, and there were official deployment guide from Quarto website. You can do it with Netlify, and you can do it with GitHub pages. So that's really nice. I like that. And for the GitHub pages, the URL is just the repository name .github.io. So I also like that because it really felt like it's quite serious. Then there are more users, and more users means there is a better community discussion and support. And that means it's going to be emphasized and developed continuously, not just some open source technology that's going to be forgotten because, well, there's no users, right? So these are a few reasons why I liked it more than the blockdown solutions. So this was a old blog. You can find it on my personal webpage. I hope you have the link. I wrote it's a website reboot, switching from blockdown to Quarto. And this was the first blog I posted with the new technology. And I think it looked pretty good. I have adjusted some of the font and the layout, the color palette inside the CSS file, maybe 1 or 2 years later. Well, 1 year later, actually. So it didn't look exactly like this, but the text, they are essentially the same. So I was so happy about it. I just wrote a blog about it. You can find it on my website. And I was so happy about it that I was trying to promote it, the new technology, into my actual work. So I had this opportunity to help with a one-day workshop. So in the past, it was usually just the professor is going to send out a folder with some script scattered around and then some documentation, right? And I suggested my professor to use Quarto to build a website because it's really not that hard. And well, I suggested and I did it because professor said super busy. And the thing is, the R scripts from the previous year for this workshop, they were already available. So all I needed to do is really just to put them in a QMD file and then build a website. So that was the first time I tried to render the R script and some data inside the website. And it worked like a charm. It's very light. And this was, well, as far as I know, this was the first Quarto workshop website at the University of Oslo. And this is what it is, statistic principles in machine learning. And then you could see some navigation, home, about, and on the left, you have this vertical navigation, like what preparation we need to do, the R lab, part 1, part 2. So yeah, this was like the first attempt I did at my university. And this is how the R lab work looks like. You have you can embed your data and also some R packages inside there. It's really quite nice. So that was how the website for the workshop looked like, and the feedback. I wasn't there at the course. I just built the website, and the professor said the students, they liked it quite a bit. And the students for this workshop, they are not entirely beginners. They already have some programming experience before. So that means they are quite familiar with Markdown and this kind of open source website. So that was quite encouraging. And I really enjoyed doing the whole process. It didn't take that much work eventually, but it looked nice. So the next year, people can reuse it. Given that I was happy about it, I wanted to build our package out of it. Okay, so it was a quite new thing, the Quarto. It was a new thing in early 2023, and people hesitate on what is it? Should I do it? And most importantly, where do I actually start? I think that's actually quite scary because when people are scared by limited information or messy information, they actually don't get started and miss out. So I thought, if only there was a tool to provide just the minimum needed to get people started. And if you remember, you don't really need that much. You need like 2 files. And I love making tutorials and learn new stuff myself along the way. So I decided to build a package out of it. And I called it QTW Academic. And QTW, it stands for Quarto Website for Academics. Because most academics they tend to not spend the time outside of academic research, but I think it's quite important to show your work in an organized way, and it's good for promoting your own work and also helps you to think which is needed and so on. So I made a template that essentially get people started. What it actually does is that it provides a few Quarto templates for Quarto websites that are commonly used by academics. And in my experience, that was the personal website and also the website for courses and workshops. So the usage is that if you install it, you can you need to install the package, and then you need to restart RStudio. And in the new project wizard, you will see Quarto website using the QTW academic template. So it's as if it's an official thing, right? But this RStudio extensions, they are really just made by the users. So this is something I learned while doing this package. It's not really that much of effort, but still it's something new. So I did this. So I found it was quite an interesting experience to learn the whole, how do I say, the whole journey of developing a package and then send it to CRAN and then get it approved. So this is still something new that I was doing back then. It got, I think, 21 stars over the years. It was like now orphaned, I would say. Well, you know, the developer is me, but I'm not really updating it because I thought, well, I don't have time to update, but there is probably no need to update it anymore because Quarto has become a mainstream tool, and probably there's no need for installing a package to get you started, right? So it's more like a toy project for me back then. So that was the three things I did immediately after I used the Quarto within the first like 2 months. And then I got a job. I got a job as a biostatistics lecturer. And this was a 50% position. It's not tenure track, it's for 2 years. So I need to teach one of the courses at the biostatistics department, and that was introductory statistics. It's a 2 weeks course, and the target audience is clinicians, psychologists, and people who need to have statistics in their PhD education. So the language was Stata for this course. They have switched from SPSS to Stata. So for the department, it was a step ahead. But to me, well, I come from the statistics background, and Stata is really not something I learned in the past. So I was struggling a bit, and I wanted to teach R inside my statistics course. Stata is probably not the worst part. I really don't like the way information are shared across the teaching team because we were using LaTeX, so Beamer slides, and mixed with PowerPoints. And the exercises were made in the Word document, and they are passed around in emails. And when the professors are giving me the information, they literally just send me a massive folder with all the previous years, and it's a lot to take in. And I do not like text compiled files. When I was doing my PhD, you have to write some papers in the format the journals want, and I really didn't like the formatting part because sometimes one line didn't work with LaTeX, then you can't really compile the whole file. So I didn't really like to use Beamer to do my slides. Yeah, so there was a lot of things that I wasn't too fond of, and I thought, well, since I'm joining, I want to do something new. I want to use R, and I want to use the Quarto website, just like we did for the website, just like we did for the workshop. And I have all the tools I need to have a new course website. And I actually really like this meme here, like when you find familiar gives you advantage on your performance check. That was really how I felt. Well, I already did it for workshop, why don't I do it for the whole course? So it's not that simple because the task here is going to be converting from like changing from a single day workshop, you are going to expand it to a 2 weeks course. And the volume of work is crushing. We had at least 12 lab exercise sessions, and here's R scripts, they are not really there. You need to create R scripts from scratch and the QMD files for all exercises. And that's just the exercises, right? I am teaching the course with 3 other professors. They have their own content to cover. But for me, I would also have to prepare the material, so the lectures. For the lectures, I didn't use Quarto at all. I just used the PowerPoint because that would be taking too much time. But for the lab sessions, I really wanted to do them in R. And the audience, they are the medical students, clinicians, psychologists. So that means they don't have IT skills. And that means if you are going to teach them R, it's very difficult actually, because they might not even know where did I download my data. So that could be a big challenge. But since I decided to do it and I have 50% of my employment for this, then I'm just going to do it and I regret nothing. So after, I think, 1 month, I developed the first version of the course website for this course. And it's hosted in the biostatistics department's GitHub. It's not in my personal repository anymore, because this potentially is going to be shared by the whole department. So because you are teaching students with little technical background, you need to provide a lot of guide to them with no IT skills, including how do you get started? How do you get RStudio on your laptop? So you need to give a lot of info, and sometimes downloading and finding the data where you download them can be a challenge. And during the class, I had students asking me, what is a CSV file? And I clicked on the data file, but I couldn't see where it went. Can you help me? Right. So these kind of questions are really to be expected in this kind of courses. But when it comes to the actual lectures with Quarto, it's actually very nice. With Quarto and the R, with this website, you can have a very structured content layout. And the important thing is to make them in order so people can find where the things are. And of course, you need to provide a lot of examples that they can relate to. A good thing of this audience is that they are PhD students, so they actually have some data that they need to analyze, and they are motivated. So having motivation is always a good thing, so that they are eager to find out what is relevant. Yeah, this is how the exercise pages looked like. So this is like to people who have our experience, this is really nothing strange, right? This is just a standard markdown with the exercises, with some examples and the solutions, with, of course, the visualization so that they can understand the fundamentals of the t-test, for example. And in my teaching, I was using the live coding lab session so that I stand there and I show them how do you create a new variable, how do you do the submission, and it was well received, and I was glad that people liked it. Most of them. Some of them, they found that leap into R is a bit too hard because it's, they don't really like a programming part. They like the conceptual part. So the upgrade in 2024 was adding the WebR interactive component there. So basically, the WebR is a technology where you can run code interactively in your Quarto website. So it's called WebR because this particular extension, it allows you to run R code. But I think the latest update, it also allows you to run Python code. It's not called WebR anymore. It's like a Quarto Live. So we'll mention that later. So basically, this adds interactivity, and it's quite useful for certain parts of the lecture, like if you want to teach randomness, if you want to teach what's the effect of setting a seed. So it will fix the random number generator. So that could be pretty convenient to have something like the WebR extension here. So this was what I did for the teaching part. And I enjoyed it quite a lot. It's always a lot of work if you do it from scratch. But that also means when you run the course the next time, again, you don't have to do anything. You basically just show up to the course, right? So this is pretty nice that I really like this part. So now let's go back to use Quarto make friends. What do I mean by that? Good documentation is always important. If you are working in academic environment or if you work in a team, it's always good to have a documentation website. I think in companies, you have their own solutions, but in academia, generally there isn't. And Quarto is a pretty convenient tool to document, and it's for free, most importantly. And building a website from a GitHub repo is like super easy. Once you have already built one, it's just copy paste, then deploy, right? So this is one of the page I did for one of the projects, and my collaborators, they are nutritionists, so they don't really know R programming. One of the students, she might need to do some R programming herself, so it's always useful to document them. And if you render the results, then it's reproducible because you know when you run it in a different computer, it's exactly going to be how it is. So that's one use case to show coworkers who don't do or do not code at all. Then also to your future self. You can make friends to your future self, right? This is a website I made for myself. It's essentially a collection of documentation for the models and for some programming knowledge that I use, but I forget sometimes. For example, I want to learn more about statistical inference, like causal inference and real-world data. And I don't want to put them in a Word document. So I just build this website, then everything is in its appropriate folder. So I can add in just the top new knowledge in the right folder next time. And yeah, for example, inside the programming part, I add how do I make slides with Review.js. Then I can try to embed it into my own web page. So that is documented. If I forgot how I did it, I just need to go back to my own GitHub repository and I find, oh, this is how I did it back then. So this was, in my opinion, an improvement in terms of knowledge development. And because then I realized, well, actually over the 2 years, I have learned quite a lot of information because I'm also looking for a job. So this can be potentially quite useful when I need to prepare for interviews. So this website, even though it's for myself, it's still public. I don't care if people are checking in there because they can't modify anything. If they see it, well, if it's useful for them, that's great. If they don't like it, well, they can always file an issue and tell me. So I don't really mind the secrecy. Like I don't really care for that. If people find it useful, well, it's first of all useful to myself. And in terms of a collaboration, well, that's a slightly different topic because as a personal and course website, it's not exactly a tool for collaboration because you are not really working with other people. You are working mostly for yourself and then other people read it. But with the help with GitHub, collaboration is really pretty easy. It's very suitable if you are co-writing a book or a documentation website in a team. For example, the Camis project, it's a fused data visualization and open source technology working group. And it's essentially comparing analysis method and the implementation in softwares. And so far, most of the content is in R and SAS. There are some Python content provided by like people with computer science background, but it's primarily just technology like statistical methods used in the pharma and life science industry. So this is built in Quarto, and it's not built by 4 people. It's built by many people, like 20 or 30, and they're always open. Well, we are always open to new collaborators. So if you are interested in the project, you want to find out more, just send me an email and I can explain what it does. But in short, this is one slide on what the Camis project is about. Essentially, you have different softwares that implement the same thing. For example, these are the proportion tests implemented in Stata and in R. And you see that you are actually doing the same analysis. You inputted the same number, but actually the p-value are going to be different. In Stata, it's going to be 0.25, and in R, it's going to be 0.27. And both of them, they are the default method. You didn't specify like what algorithm should I use or should I correct for continuity. So in this case, you have two languages and they have different results. Which one should you trust? And that's a problem in the pharmaceutical industry because most legacy codes, they are written in SAS, but they are changing into R. So should I trust the R result? Should I trust open source? That's a big problem, right? So Kami's project is basically documenting this in these discrepancies, and you try to provide more documented evidence that this is how it behaves in R, this is how it behaves in SAS. So if you just dig a bit more in detail of the R code, and you add one argument for the proportion test, you see that if you add the correction for continuity, then it's producing exactly the same result as the Stata solution. I didn't check it in SAS because I don't have the installment, but yeah, you can see that with a small change, you can have a match of results or not match of the results. So the Quarto here is used as a collaborative tool. And for R and Python, the code can be rendered, and as you can imagine. But for SAS and others, there is a mix of screenshots and copy and paste. So this is essentially how it looks like with one sample t-test. On the left is a Quarto site, and on the right you see the copy paste and also some just text pasted in there. So the Kamis project, it is open source, collaborative, and we always have the monthly community call, and everyone who has knowledge on the different languages, they are very encouraged to join, and not just if you're in biotech or pharma. And we collaborated by shooting down the open issues. So let me know if you would like to participate, and I will guide you through what's needed to be done. And next thing is the Turing Way project. This is essentially a handbook for reproducible, ethical, and collaborative data science. It's not in the pharma industry anymore. And sometimes they have the online event called Book Dash. It's essentially a hackathon where it's not just the coding, but it's more like writing some paragraphs together. If you have a knowledge on reproducible research, project design, communication, etc. So this project is based in UK. And in 2023, when I participated in the event, the Quarto was their main documentation tool. And right now, I'm not sure if they're still using the same. I don't see why it have changed, but maybe something has changed. And the way they collaborated is exactly the same as any other open source technology. It's to check in the issues and just create something that you have knowledge about. So this is something that I think was quite nice, and it's a quite important topic. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. So we are almost there. Quarto is actually, it opens a lot of new doors. And behind these doors, there is a great community. And because I was doing the Quarto things quite a lot, I was invited to give a tutorial at the Zurich R UseR Group. And I did. It was really pretty fun. During the 1 hour, we actually only managed to do maybe 30% of what I had planned to do because of issues with installations and R versions, etc. But nonetheless, I hope everybody enjoyed the material. They can always do it at home if they didn't finish it during the session. And then I went to Salzburg for the UseR conference this summer. And in this photo, this was the the organizers. It was a really nice experience doing the events together with great people. And the next one is one was joining the Fuse event in Basel last week. And yeah, I was just keeping collecting the stickers while I go. And yeah, it's a really a great community. And you also get to see famous people and famous and nice people. And you also see like you participated in this quiz bars. For example, the one in the middle, you are supposed to guess which one is actually the logo for POSIT. So that actually was quite difficult because nobody really paid attention to which is the orange arrow pointing towards. So what else? If I have to review this journey, definitely I do not regret anything. And my experience is that when I had this new technology, the Quarto thing, I wanted to build something and I built something quick. I didn't really think too much about, oh, should I do it? Is it worth it? I just did it. And then I updated it later. And at the beginning, it can be a bit tricky, but it usually gets easier and faster later on. And you might be helping each other without realizing it. So I was actually struggling with WebR in the beginning because it was a new thing. It was not well documented. So my solution there, it wasn't really working. But I saw on LinkedIn that a girl, Lynn, she managed to do it. So I just sent her a message. Okay, how do we do it? And she told me what to fix. And I posted as a post on LinkedIn. And actually it helped quite a lot of people. So that is like really something amazing that if you fix it yourself and you just share it, it might be really helpful to people. And sometimes you have to start again. And yeah, just don't be afraid to start again. Like when I did the block down to Quarto, I just completely scrapped my website. There are some other use cases I have not mentioned. I'm mostly focused on the websites. I rarely use the other functionalities like the reports, the dashboards. So review JavaScript, that one is for presentations, but I don't use it that much. I have made one thing with Review.js, but I prefer old style when I can drag the figures around and to zoom it to make it bigger, smaller. I prefer the flexibility there. But to show code, I think that would be a good option. Yeah, the part of the reason is that I never show code, right? As a parameterized reports, that was really a big topic in last year's POSIT conference. And adding the interactivity, I think that's going to be a trend in the future. I have only used the WebR, and currently I do not have any use case for dashboards for my own work. So I don't have too much of experience in it, but I think people are really trying to move towards interactive reports there. So what's trending now in Quarto? So in 2023, in the POSIT conference, they have announced that WebR is out. And that's really become like a very big thing, a very big topic. And people started trying it out immediately, including me. Apart from the WebR, talks are mostly on the use cases like the parameterized reports, publications, and so on, because I don't have much experience in that. And to my own work, I don't really have a use case. I didn't really pay much attention there. So in 2024, in the USR Salzburg, I was actually hosting the Quarto session. And three of them were about the Quarto use cases. And one of them introduced this Tipist. It's for PDFs. And then there were industry reporting and styling for Quarto reports. So again, use cases. In 2024, POSITConf, I didn't really watch it this year, so I was teaching, but they have announced a Quarto Live, and that's supporting both R and Python code chunks to run interactively, and it allows to set up code and so that you don't have to paste the same code again in the next chunk. So that is quite convenient, and there are more options for visualization. So that's nice. Then Quarto dashboards, I haven't really tried it out, but they have a video there and some other extensions to make a Quarto website more flexible, such as like a close read. I just checked it out yesterday. I think it's pretty interesting. And the talks, they should be available on YouTube within this year. Last in 2023, they have released the talks on YouTube at the end of December. So for this year, I believe the timeline should be approximately the same. It's going to be released within this year. Yeah, so far, if you registered for the POSIT virtual conference, you actually don't have to pay for that. I registered for free. You can actually watch some of the video recordings already. But most of the talks, they should be available in public within this year on YouTube. So yeah, so that concludes my talk. I'd like to know how to use Quarto to help with your work and projects. And yeah, I think we can probably just discuss, and maybe I can show something on my side, just some web pages that I have found out. Yeah, so that's it. Should I stop sharing or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm just stop sharing for the moment. All
Okay.
right. Yeah.
I have a
Okay. Thank.
question.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Chi. This was really inspiring. The journey you had. It's quite inspiring for others and even me too. I recently completed my master's MTech in data science and engineering, and the first thing I'm going to start after this session is to build my portfolio because self branding is very, very important. It's not just academics, but being a data science professional or aspiring data science professional, personal branding is very, very important. So, thanks for the session. Very inspiring, and I'm going to take this as a weekend project. But I have one question. I was going through the Quarto website where Posset has put all the content. There is something called Quarto blog, and there is something called Quarto website. So do you have some guidance on when is the best to use a Quarto blog versus when is best to use a Quarto website? Especially when you have a lot of materials to share. Say, for example, that is one use case. You write a lot of blogs, and then you write some learnings, whatever you have learned, you want to share with others over the social media. So, say R related content, dashboards, your own visualization in R or Python, and say, for example, another use case would be your own personal showcase, right? So it may be about your portfolios, your resume, your past work, how to project that. So would how what is your guidance on these kind of use cases, be it a Quarto blog versus Quarto website?
So I'm not so sure about the distinction really. I'm just gonna share again. I'm just going to show you how I do it. Okay. So basically, I just have the most standard Quarto web page. This is just a website. And I'm sure that you have the link there so you can browse as well. So basically, I have the overall intro here. And then I have the projects on the next tab. Basically, it's going to be a list of things separated by the topics. And then because I have teaching, then yeah, teaching our packages, talks, etc., etc. I have put the blog and the notes in a separate tab here. So these are the blogs I have, and sometimes I read books and I write some notes. Then they are in a separate section, so that in the future I can also find where I have recorded them. Then reading notes, if I have read a book, I put it there, etc. So for the personal like a resume, I have my CV, and the CV here, I basically just linked the how do I say, a PDF there. If I look at my GitHub, let me see. Yeah, blog, not blog. This is not the about me index, about, yeah, okay. Let me just find it. I haven't touched on it for a while. Yeah, Quarto YAML. And because in YAML, you basically specify how your website looks like. And if you look at the navigation bar, so for the other pages, they are linking to a folder, projects, teaching, our package, etc. And for the CV, it's going to link to a PDF file that I have uploaded there. So this is how I structure it basically. And I don't really have a very good blog because I don't really have time to write blogs. But I think you don't have to split them too much. You can all put them together. And I have seen people doing that, and I think it's a good solution there. Yeah.
Thank you, Shin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ovirup, do you have any question? You
Uh,
raised your hand.
yeah. Yes. So, am I audible?
Yeah. Sure.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I previously I had some demand to you that asking about questions regarding your experience in user conference and POSIT conference too. So for me as well as for our audience. So I have two questions. So one thing is, could you share your insights from your experiences at both conferences and highlight any significant takeaways, uh, uh, or key moments? That is the first thing. And the second thing is, could you guide us and our audience on how to apply for the user conference and POSIT conference? Are there any scholarships or travel grants available for participants? And what is the process for applying? These
Yeah,
two.
of course. So let's start with a POSIT conference, which is in America generally. So that one, I have never been there physically. I'm usually following it online. So they have so both conferences, they have scholarship, and they used to call it the diversity scholarship, but now they call it opportunity scholarship, I believe. I have applied for the diversity scholarship back in 2020, and I got it. Back then, it was pretty straightforward, and it was during COVID, so you don't really go there, right? So usually they sponsors travels if you got it, so the stake is higher. But the year one I got it, they didn't really sponsor the trips because nobody is allowed to travel. But they had a group. It's like a cohort where they participated on online learning with the instructors from our studio, and there is quite a good opportunity to network. So that was still nice, but that was kind of special in that year. And I don't think I'm allowed to apply ever again because I already got it for that 1 year, which is unfortunate because I couldn't travel there. So I encourage you to check out. When I applied, I actually didn't need to write too much in terms of the application. It's really just your experience with R and your which place you are from. For me, I was, of course, women of color. Well, I don't know if you would call Asian women of color, but yeah, that. So I'm not, Caucasian. So maybe that counted. Um, and being a woman also counted for this particular cohort. Mm, in terms of location, I was in Norway, so that's not exactly the low income or low and middle income. So I don't really know. And they asked for like, how do you promote R's use in your work and your community? And I wrote something about it because I was already presenting at the UseR back in Norway. So maybe that helped. So overall, it was a good experience in terms of the scholarship. I know that every time when they host this event, they have something like this. So just apply, you might get it. I can't guarantee it, but you might get it. Yeah, but try to um, be, of course, genuine and try to be positive of what you can do with the community. Sure. About the so the timelines for the applications for the talks, so abstract. I only have experience with the UseR conference because I was both presenting a talk and I was also on the program community. In terms of how I joined the program community, it was really pretty straightforward. They had an open call on the social media on LinkedIn, and I just expressed my interest, and they always need volunteers to help out. So there is not really a selection process at all. So we had the monthly meeting once per month, and that started possibly around November the year before. If they have the event in July, then they start more than half a year ago. There we have to come up with the speakers, who we should invite for the keynotes, and also some streams of talks that we would like to have. And of course, after the call for abstract closes, we would have to screen the talks, and like mark which talks we would like to have, which one is probably not super relevant or interesting, etc. But I would say that the progress is pretty transparent because we have to write very explicitly why do we take this talk and why do we not take this talk. So it's I think I had a good experience with that in general. Yeah, so what else? I didn't really participate in the POSIT conference in person, but I was there virtually, and I think it was quite nice because you have a Discord channel where you just you can interact with people real time, and that is really interesting. I really liked it. So I would encourage you to join the POSIT virtual conference if you can't be there in person, because it can be a bit of a hassle to travel to America to participate in that. And I most likely, I don't think I would travel there in person because yeah, it's complicated. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yes, thank you so much for your insightful talk today. And this
Yeah.
one, Leo has some questions. So yeah, you can unmute yourself and go ahead to ask. Hi, Leo. Are you
Okay,
there?
so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So thanks a lot for your very nice presentation. So I'm also an avid R learner, and I'm interested in using Quarto in my PhD. So I'm a PhD student, by the way. So yeah, like you already know, in like doing PhD, writing a paper is a yeah, it's a challenge that you usually have to face. But I mean, like I wanted to apply Quarto writing my manuscripts, but I find it's quite difficult, especially like because usually it when it comes to writing an article, you use Microsoft Word, and it's difficult to track change. So even though you use Quarto. So I don't know if you have like any experience in that aspect. Um,
So for
because
my
like GitHub, it doesn't support that thing. Yeah.
yeah, so for manuscripts, I
Yes.
had
Yes.
to use
Mm.
a template like the LaTeX or Word document. It depends really on which journal you are submitting. And they want you to use the LaTeX, and like for LaTeX, they don't even want you to submit the PDF. They want you to submit the LaTeX file with all the dependencies. So there, I don't really think it's really flexible. And when it comes to medical journals, they want you to submit the Word documents. So yeah, you can't really do much with Quarto at all. But if you are submitting like to our journal, I think they have their own procedure to do that. There is even our package for you to submit to our journal, I believe. So I wouldn't say that Quarto is a solution to all, and I don't see why it should rule out all the other options. I think people should just choose what is accepted and be flexible about it. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, because like yeah, so even though we have Quarto, but it's still like there's not a solution for like writing manuscript, right? Because it usually have to do with Word and yeah, Quarto doesn't have much with it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly,
yeah,
and
because it's like yeah,
especially if you are the only person doing it, then other people might not be able to use or
yes,
edit
yes,
your
indeed,
stuff.
indeed,
So
like
yeah, like that would just cause troubles for
yeah,
the communication. So
yeah. Previously they have like deep doc package, but for some reason it's stopped like developing. So it is a pity actually. But
yeah.
thank you very much.
So yeah, you always need to use whatever is being active developed, which has a big community.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leo, and thank you. So I think
Yeah, someone.
Patricio, you have some question. You have raised your hand. Yeah, you can go ahead and ask. Patricio, you are mute. Could you please unmute? Yeah.
It's typing.
Oh, yeah, he's typing.
One more question, Chi. In terms of hosting the website, right? You mentioned Netlify and GitHub page. And I know this was when you started your journey. Is this still relevant, or you suggest some other, recommend some other options besides Netlify, GitHub pages? Now that we have got a lot of this Azure and Google Cloud and many other options, right? So what do you think is a cheap and workable for person who doesn't want to spend too much of money and maintain their own personal website?
So I do not want to pay anything for that because it's just a personal website. So when I started, I used Netlify, and there I need to specify the URL. The rbind, it was a like I don't know how to call it. It's like a cohort where you can apply to get your name with the rbind.io. Instead of github.io, it was rbind.io, so that you are part of the R community, sort of. So I got one of those, and I used that for my Netlify website. But after I switched to Quarto 3 years later, I found that, wow, it's actually pretty straightforward just to deploy from the GitHub. The only caveat is that you are not really flexible in terms of changing your repo's name, well, the name of your repo. So if my repository is called Andrea, then it's not really easy to change to something else. So if you're happy with that, then I think GitHub Pages is good enough. It's free, it's pretty convenient, and there's good documentation on how you can do it. I haven't really investigated into other options that you can flexibly change your domain name because I really don't want to pay for that. Yeah. So that's my experience. If I have something that's more professional, I might explore the options. But so far, I found that GitHub Pages is good enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so another question from Oviru in the chat section.
So in terms of hosting, I guess the question is asking whether it's good to host R, Python, Julia in the same website, right? And for that, I think it's pretty stable. If you check the Commits project, that is a project where multiple languages are hosted in the same page. And it works. I didn't hear anyone complaining about it. They are using also the RM for the version control for the R version and the Python versions to have a fixed environment. I didn't develop that myself. Christina did it, so she knows more about how it works exactly for the Python part of it. But I think it should work pretty seamlessly. Otherwise, it shouldn't be just hosting R only or Python only. Okay, so yeah, integrating LaTeX in terms of real-time rendering. I honestly, I had some, I didn't really try to integrate LaTeX at all because I stopped writing about statistics papers with journals that require you to use LaTeX templates. So I didn't really try that. But while I was typing, the formulas in Quarto with the double dollar sign before it and after it, sometimes some math functionalities, they don't really work well. For example, I cannot type the independent sign, the vertical bar with dash underneath. I couldn't do it with Quarto without checking it more than 10 minutes, So I think there are probably some room for improvement in terms of having it more scientific ways to like present some formulas, for example. But I'm sure in the next version it's going to be improved for sure. So far my use is actually wide but not very specific. So I didn't really dig really deep into it.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I was wondering if you use Quarto for your presentation or for your slides, or for preparing your slides, or you still use PowerPoint for that?
Yeah, so for that, I use PowerPoint and Apple's Keynote for my presentations because so far I hadn't had the need to present a lot of code and render the results. And I like the flexibility to drag the figures around, and I just like that. I find it a bit, because I like to see where things would be eventually, and the PowerPoint allowed me to do that. If I have it in Quartos, I have to write some code, like a line of command and then render. It's a bit clunky in my opinion. I did something like that before. I think the only only two perks, well, actually 3 perks. It's not really 2 perks now. Now I'm reconsidering my position. Okay, the benefit one is that you have the HTML that is very easy to share. You don't have to send any slides or PDFs around. You just share it as a website so you can share it quite easily with one URL. It's really straightforward there. So that I like it with Review.js. Another thing I liked was it's quite nice to have a consistent style in terms of specifying the CSS file. So I have to customize a Our Lady's talk, and that's using the specifications for the Our Lady's theme. So this is quite nice. If you know the parameters, you can make it really consistent with the font size, etc. And the third one is with the code. If you have code and you need to render the results there, then that is very convenient. Which with the plots, with the keynotes, you have to take a screenshot, etc. So I think if you have these needs, the Quarto Review.js, that is a good solution. Then what I don't like about it, two things. One is that I don't like to insert the figure by writing, include a figure, and then I write the path in it. I find it a bit too annoying to write that every time. And I also don't like that every time I need to create a new slide, I need to create a new GitHub repository for that. Then as a Quarto project, I find that a bit annoying. So yeah, there are pros and cons. I'm sure that if you have already done many Review.js talks, then you'll probably have a pretty good workflow, and then you would just rather stick with it, right? But for me, so far, I haven't really made the transition yet. Oh, back then I was using the Sharingan package to make slides only once. It's the same experience with Quarto. It's the same thing essentially. Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
your very detailed answer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you again. So it's now time for wrap up this session. And we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Zhang for sharing invaluable insights for your journey to art statistician to art developer and all of the information you shared to us. And it's really grateful to you to host you today's session. And we are expecting more sessions like this from you as well as other the members of the art community as well. As your talk is really inspired us to explore Quarto, not just as a tool for productivity, but as a means to connect people, learn, and growth with others in this field. Yeah, thank you for providing us with a fresh perspective and practical ideas to implement in our own journey. So yeah, again, thank you. And there is an interesting announcement that our next session of Kolkata R user group will be held on November. So there, one of the most famous person from our community, Shannon Pellegrini, will be hosting, will be the speaker of that event. So yeah, everyone is welcome to attend that session. So be with us till then. Take care and stay curious. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you again.
Yeah. Yeah, sure,
Bye.
sure. Bye.